Okay, we're streaming now. We're streaming now.
Yeah, it works great for furniture.
All right, yeah. Have you heard
Yeah.
anything from Archie?
I have not heard
The old
anything. There he is.
It weighs like a ton, but
Here he is.
I bought some oil-based
All right.
shellac for that. They were like maybe moved
All right.
a wild time.
I'm going to call this meeting to order, so let's start by rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Union City Community Schools Board meeting. Our meeting agenda is available for you to follow. The expectation for our board meeting is to follow this agenda closely. We operate under the Open Meetings Act and utilize Robert's Rules of Order to govern our discussion and decision-making process. There is an opportunity for public comment during our set agenda. We welcome the public to express their opinions during this time of our agenda. If there are questions about the agenda or the board meeting process, please seek out one of the board members for clarification. And as far as an addition or deletion of items to the agenda, we do have an addition to the agenda. I believe I need a motion in order to put that on. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. So what we have to add is information and a vote regarding K-12 media, which would help us with our bond vote. And so I would like a motion, I would entertain a motion to add that as action item D. Mm-hmm. D as in dog.
I'd like to make a motion to add action item D to the agenda regarding the evaluation of K-12 media, use of K-12 media for the bond proposal.
So moved.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. We'll move on to the consent agenda. And I would entertain a motion to approve it as presented to us.
So moved.
Support. Discussion?
Negative.
We all look at you. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries.
Did have a thought, but I suppressed it.
All right, we'll move on to correspondence. Do we have any for today?
None that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Now we're at the point of our meeting where we have our first public comments time. This is a section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about items on the agenda. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do we have any public comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on now to action items. First one is financials. Board action is required to approve the financials for the month ending February 28th, 2025. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Yes. Thank you, Archie.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Superintendent evaluation. Board action is required to approve moving the superintendent evaluation from annual to biennial. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
This is because of the evaluation that was done previously, correct?
Correct. With having a evaluation that is good for the last 2 years,
It's
correct?
3 years in a
3
row.
years. We now can go to every other year situation. So, any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Move on now to facilities plan approval. Board action is required to accept the report of the Facilities Steering Committee and to approve presenting the plan to the state treasurer for a potential bond election. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion.
I guess I want to give a speech real quick.
That is your time to do.
So this is obviously a big decision. I mean, it's a huge decision for us to do this. And you know, my previous job, we did a lot of risk assessments. That was, you know, we would look at the risk of, you know, to the user, the risk of the manufacturing, the risk of supply chain, the risk of all the risks, and you look at all those even before you did the design. And you would look at the risks in terms of two things: severity and probability. And so you could have highly severe things that had a low probability, or any mixture of the two. And so I've been trying to look at this whole thing with that lens, because we have risks here. But the goal of the risk assessment is do it up front, and then you try to mitigate those risks so that when you release the product, you say, okay, we have an acceptable level of risk, because you have a risk no matter what you do. And so, you know, you look at the high risk items here. We've got, you know, a huge risk, which is that the middle school is in a situation where it is unusable, either determined by us or by the state that it's not safe or it can't be used for school, and we have no plan B. That's a high severity risk, right? Other severity risks, other severity issues are, you know, the interaction with students is a huge one, whether it's physical, emotional, whatever, with people of different age groups, different maturity levels. That's a risk, huge risk. And the third one is the risk that we don't, because we move the kids from there to here, or, you know, because we close the middle school down, we take all that space and we have less space, and so we have a risk that we aren't able to provide the same level of education, the same, you know, facilities, and you know, the needs for the staff and the students are no longer met because we are crammed and it doesn't work. So those, I think, are the biggest severity issues. And so you look at the probability. Well, the whole reason we're doing this is to try to reduce the probability of the first one. We don't want the school to get closed by someone else or by us. So, you know, that's why we're doing this, so that reduces the probability of that happening if we build a different facility or we reduce that problem from happening. The second one is, you know, student segregation, keeping the students safe. And, you know, I feel like, I know it's hard because we don't have the final plans, because we have to have the money to have the architects design them, but I think we've worked very hard, the facilities team, Mr. Katz, to try to mitigate that risk as much as we can. So you have a high severity, but if you can mitigate it, then the resultant risk is an acceptable one based on what you've done. And so there was a mother who came to, I think, 2 meetings and voiced that concern more than once, and I appreciate her to voice the concern, and I understand and I agree with her that it's a concern. But I do think that we are going to work as hard as we can, and we have worked quite hard at trying to prevent that from being an issue. And so we're trying to reduce the probability, and I think we've mitigated that to a level, or the plan is to mitigate that to a level that makes it an acceptable risk. It doesn't eliminate it altogether. She said you can't guarantee. Yeah, there's no guarantees, but the kids are on the bus together, the kids are in other places together at different ages, and so, you know, there is some risk in all these things, and we're trying to mitigate that as best we can. And the third one, I talked so much I forgot what I was. You know, the education piece. You know, again, we don't have a solid drawn up plan, but you know, Mr. Cass and others have worked hard at trying to listen, and we're going to continue to listen and work with the staff as best we can to not take away the space we need. You know, I mean, much of that building may not be used every minute, but there's parts of it that are used a lot, and we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we can't function the way we need to. And so, you know, we can't make that risk to zero either, but we're trying very hard to mitigate that, and I do think that the proposal that we have is the best option and the most efficacious way, whatever the word is, the best way.
Effective.
Well, yeah, effective, I guess, way to mitigate that risk. So, you know, we have to accept the risks, but I think we're working to mitigate the problems to make them into a level that's appropriate, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I don't want to be, I've told more than one person this, we have to do something. You know, multiple people have looked at it, this is the best option we can come up with limited funds. And so we're going to try to do what we can, and I don't want to be on a board that ignores it and says we'll just deal with it later, because that's not fair to the next person. So I feel like this is the best option we have. We got work to do. it's not a slam dunk on passing this thing at all by any means. It's a lot of money, but that's what it takes to do stuff. Is a lot of money, you know, from eggs to lumber to whatever. It all costs more than it used to. So I'm frustrated that it costs so much, and it's going to take 30 years of costing a lot. But we have not had a bond since the last one was approved in '74. You said, I think.
72.
72. So, and the last payment was made 20 plus years ago. So 20 plus years of not having $1 a day, which is one of the kind of the talking points that he made at one of the workshops. That's a lot of years of not having to pay $1 a day. I think it's appropriate that we're willing to spend some money to improve the schools in the area. So anyway, I don't know if it makes anyone feel better, but I feel better saying it. So thank you. So we're gonna, so we approve this, then it goes to the state.
What will happen is, it goes to the PQ meeting, which is on April 3rd, and then they review it and provide us with the final application, which then will come back, and the board has to then have an official vote to send it to Treasury on April 7th, and then Treasury has 30 days to approve it, and when Treasury gets it back, then the board will have a vote on May 12th to call for the election for it. So
we had a couple more votes yet to go.
yes, there are 2 more votes yet to go. 2 more times opportunities to say no.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to our added item, which is K-12 media. And Chris, I'm going to ask you to talk about this before we put a vote out.
So it was suggested to me just last about a week ago by C2AE, our architect, that they've worked with K-12 media, and they're working with them right now, I think, on a bond proposal at Mason. And what K-12 media does, and so I contacted them and I spoke with the owner, and we set up a meeting for today at 3:15. Both our construction manager and architect were on the meeting today, as well as myself, Patrick, and Sarah, and they are a marketing group that would work to make sure the information about the bond election gets out to the community, to provide the community with complete information on what the needs are and what the costs would be, and about the bond election from the standpoint of the district. They have a number of different strategies involved in the marketing through both online media. It's more than just your traditional media. We don't have a newspaper anymore, but
Right.
it goes beyond that. They really get into the electronic media, which is, that's how everybody consumes media these days, advertisements and so on, is through their cell phones. And they are experts at doing that kind of thing, whereas I am not. And so they would come down, film us. They would take photos around our district. They would put these together in different video clips showing the different aspects of the current facilities, what needs to be addressed, what the improvements will do for the district. And then they will also, as part of their package, they will then place the advertisements online through Instagram, through Facebook, through Google Ads, through multiple types of online marketing that will reach a variety of people. The idea is to make sure that everybody in the community gets the full message about what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, and about the election when it's going to occur. So it's a pretty complete package. Matter of fact, they basically ask that we kind of stay out of it a bit once it's put in place, because they don't want our message to contradict their, to cross with their message. They will work with us and correlate things with us so that the information we're sharing, they'll provide us with printed materials, cards and things to hand out, flyers, all those kind of things. They will provide those. They have graphic artists that put those kind of things together. So it's a full package. It's not inexpensive. I didn't know how much it was going to cost before I had the meeting with them. Matter of fact, I didn't know until at the end of the meeting they gave me the amount. As we were going through it, I was sold about 20 minutes in that I felt like it would be effective for us. They've been in business, he said, just over 12 years. They've worked on and passed over $3 billion in bond campaigns, and they've only had 4 bond campaigns that didn't pass in the 12 years, which I liked that track record. And so as I thought about, because I've been thinking about how do I get the message out to people. I mean, I've done my podcast, but I might get 20 people that see that, or and as many people as you speak to, it's not the same, and people get misinformation out about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and it would allow us to provide information that address people's concerns. The cost is, it's but I'm informed that that's what these types of media campaigns cost these days. Andrew, when he got here, he looked at the brochure and he's familiar with it. You could maybe share your experiences with this type of marketing through your business.
Yeah, it's the cost of doing business these days to get information out. With an educational campaign, it's just informing people of facts and things like that. And so they use algorithms that are really hard to explain, like how much detail it gets to out there. And so I think it's really effective at building a base of people that you want to talk to and see information. So I'll just say that it's effective and they know how to market that. One thought that I was thinking about is in the Battle Creek market, for instance, we have a hard time with these campaigns penetrating into older demographics because they don't consume social media and other online things. So I would have a question to them is what's their strategy with that?
And I did ask him about that.
Okay, cool,
and
great.
he talked about that well, I think he felt like that is true, but there are a lot of older people now that do, and that they're able to reach them, but that we also do have, it does include print resources and those types of things that we have that we can use to send out to people, and that they will basically do a complete breakdown of our area and help us identify the different contacts we should, be connecting with in terms of getting that information to.
And then do they have like an a la carte option where we can use some of their selective services, or do they just have one campaign?
It's basically, it's a campaign price. I asked him, I said, your dollar amount is above anything I can approve myself. Can you break this apart and do one part with the other? And he said, that they don't really feel like they can do that because they all work as a team, and when they take a district on, they put whatever resources into it they need to in order to try to pass the bond. And so they have different teams that do the video. They have different graphic arts people that work on that part of it, putting the flyers and the clip art together. Different people that work on managing the website and those things. So they all kind of take a share of it and do it all. And they put everything they mail out, they put a QR code on so they can track who responds to it, and those types of things. yeah, so, I don't know if that answered your
Yeah.
question, but
And then would they, if the first attempt doesn't pass, would they stay on as in our second attempt, or that?
I did ask him about that. I said, I explained that, Chrisman is putting a lot of money into this. And, we've committed to 2 attempts. If the first one doesn't pass, we try again. Because they don't make money unless they get to manage a project. Same with C2AE as the architect. And I said, I wanna know, what, theirs. And now, I understand on their end, theirs is a little different, cause once it passes, they're done. There is no work for them to get a percentage of later on, like the architect and the construction manager. So they do, you have a contract and you pay them, but he said that all the videos, all the resources they have that they put together, the materials, that part would all be done, and so they can, if we alter things or whatever, they can retarget things in terms of how they cut together the videos. But things like the advertisements, they pay for those through the social media and other online ads, and so whatever they've outlaid to pay for those, there would be charges for that through a second attempt that we would have to pay for if we re-engage them for that part of it. So it wouldn't be like they could, just do a second attempt for free. There would be cost
Okay.
involved, but it wouldn't. I don't believe it would be as, based on what he said, as much as the initial charge would be. I think what I told Amber was if it had been within my authority to do it, I would make the decision. The reason I brought it tonight was because I told them we have another meeting on April 7th and we could do that, and they have like a kind of a 3-month deal that they do, 3-month package starting May 1st, starting 3 months before the August election date. And they kind of do things in a certain standard way in terms of getting their full service. And in order to get ready for May 1st, they need to get started as soon as they can. And they said if they had to wait till April 7th, that would make it difficult for them to get the work done in time too. And I said, well, all I could do is I'd bring it to Amber, and if she wants to put it on the agenda, then we'd put it on the agenda, and if she didn't, we wouldn't. And so that's why it's there tonight.
I think, like Andrew said, it is a high cost, but it is, again, the cost of doing business, and that's what they do. I know it's a lot of money.
If the board decides not to do it, I'll do the best I can.
Well, let's have a motion regarding this, and then we can openly have a discussion. So I would entertain a motion to contract with K-12 Media for our bond.
So moved.
Support. Yeah.
Discussion.
I appreciate your question about the a la carte, because we are a smaller school, so it seems like we should get a discount, but evidently you asked that question and they said no, because we have less.
Probably the
They
same
gave
amount
me a
of work.
range of price. I asked when they first talked about it, I said, what's your price range? And they gave me a range, and this is the lowest end of the range. Basically, this is the 32,000 was the bottom number on there.
Is that just due to the timing of how fast we have to get?
No, just in terms of what their package is.
Oh, I
They
see.
go from 32,000 on up. Before you would give me a dollar amount specific to us, they said they would need to take some time and look at our district demographics and stuff. And so after our phone call, they did whatever they do online to look at our district, the size and all that kind of stuff. And then they emailed me the proposal about an hour and a half later. And the dollar amount that was on it is at the bottom end of the price range you gave me.
You cleared your throat.
Well,
That's usually a
I
sign
want
that you're going to
to
say
stop
something.
dominating, let people talk, think.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I don't know of a way to do this internally.
No, we can't.
Not in the time frame that we have.
No, do they include mailers? 'Cause I saw postcards, is that,
Yeah,
they're gonna mail everybody in the district, is that,
Um,
or most everybody in the district, do you know, or?
Tribute.
Or do they
Well, we
give
have to pay for
graphics to
those
then
ads,
have
though.
us print?
I mean,
and-
everything costs.
No, they provide the mailers themselves,
Okay.
those things themselves.
Still have mailers, so.
Yeah, as far as whether they pay the cost of mailing or not, I don't remember asking that specific question.
It's, I mean,
I don't know that I asked that.
postage in
specific
the whole
question.
scheme of things is not.
No.
But that will help reach some of
What?
the,
No,
They said they did not?
they provide what they called a bleeder, which is like the print of the thing
Oh, okay,
that we would give to like who we use for Treasure Press, for example.
okay.
okay.
Because they said it wasn't cost effective for them to do it when somebody might have somebody they already use that might be cheaper than
All right,
like.
we
I
have
don't,
a
I don't remember hearing that.
relationship
They
with.
just mark it up 10% and try to
Yeah,
store
they've
it
got
anyway,
it so it's all consistent with everything else that they market, so we could give that to whoever we work with and then they.
Okay,
Additionally, do they have any like metrics on how large and how many ad campaigns? Because ad spend is only spent on how many people click on it. So they could have 20 ads, but nobody clicks on it, no dollars were spent.
right.
So the ad spend metrics change with how good the ad is, and so do they guarantee like a click-through rate, how many people?
They did not.
Okay, so these are all metrics that I think would be important. I know we don't really have the time frame to.
If you decide we can't act as quickly on it and you want more info, I
I
can
don't think
arrange,
it's a make or break. It's
I
just,
can arrange,
Yeah.
because they said that, they said if we had another special meeting, if we had, I mean, that they would present to you if you wanted them to do that, but I didn't think you would all wanna come back.
they're at the interest of,
quickly.
I imagine they're gonna design campaigns that get clicks because that's what they're trying to do. I mean, they're not just trying to take $30,000 from us and
I told them,
walk away.
I said, we haven't had a bond since 1972. I mean, you said you're pretty proud of that. We've only lost 4.
Yeah.
And he told me 2 of those they lost because the superintendent insisted wearing a suit and tie in the video. And they told them not to wear a suit and tie in the video. And they insisted on doing it, and they lost both of those. And he said, if there's one thing you do not wear a suit and tie in the video. And I said,
Done.
won't be a problem. I've worn a suit and tie since my interview, so.
But that's the kind of thing pay these people know, you know?
Right.
That was the main thing that they told me was, that he said was, but if you don't feel comfortable doing it, I'm totally fine with saying the board's not comfortable doing that and they wanna get a presentation, and if you want our business, you're gonna have to make it work. If you want me to do that, I'm happy to do that as well.
The
And
way
if
I
there's-
look at it right now for myself is, you know, your top dollar is 29,000, right? That you can
Yes.
sign for or whatever. We're only
Something
talking
like that.
$3,000 more
So,
than what we already give
that's the point.
the, approval to without us having to make the decision. So we're talking $3,000. I mean, I know it's really 32, but if you look at what we have to approve, we're only approving $3,000 more than what
He
he
could
would have
spend on his
approved
own.
anyway on his
Right.
own. That's what I see.
And my thought process was anything, say I got a discount of $5,000 more off that, would that make it me more or less likely to do it? It wouldn't really have impacted my decision, because I'm thinking of it in terms of, if we're gonna do this, we should make every effort to try to do it the first time and not have to spend the money on a second election and not have to
Yes, I agree.
delay everything by a year, because the second election won't be until next May. And I would rather put my all into it right now and try to pass it in the first shot. And the thing that I'm most concerned about in this election, especially without having a newspaper in town, is that people who will vote all have the right information. Because there is already misinformation, because people hear through second, third, fourth, fifth hand sources, and I've had people tell me already that they've been asked questions by a neighbor who had it totally wrong, what we were talking about doing, and So I guess that's my primary concern. And if we didn't hire a company like this and we were just going to try to get the information out ourselves, I would be trying to do online ads. I would be figuring out setting up an Instagram account and trying to, because Instagram is your younger crowd. I guess Facebook is for old people like me.
That's what I hear.
And
My kids tell me
Instagram is
that.
for people who are in their 30s and younger. Or maybe Instagram's up to 40 now. I don't know wherever that is, but I would be trying to the best I could. I've actually been trying to figure out how I'd film a video, and I've seen Brunson and Springport have some pretty slick websites that they've had put together for them. I know putting together a pretty slick website is not cheap, and both of those schools have nice websites. Springport's got a really nice 4-minute video on their website, but you have to go to their website to see it. It doesn't show up in your, when you flick through all those reels on Facebook, they call them, and what are they on Instagram is just Instagram, I suppose. And people look through those quick videos, and what is it? TikTok is, we don't do TikTok's not. We don't do TikTok.
yes.
TikTok's for the younger kids, right?
Their resume of people that they've worked with is pretty impressive.
You kind of stole my thunder there about this will get the same information out to everybody. Everybody will have the same information. You're not trying to, well, Joe Blow told me about this up the street, and this way, same information is going to everybody. All the information is going to everybody.
I just want to make sure people have the right information,
I agree.
and then the voters can vote how they want to vote on it. I know how I feel about it. Obviously, we wouldn't be proposing this if we didn't think it was a good idea. But if people have the right information, then it's a good vote, and it's really what the community believes and what the community wants. If people don't have the right information, then you can have the election and not know if it was based on having the right information or not. And so if people don't have the right information and you get a no vote, you're really not even sure exactly if they voted no because they don't want it, or if they voted no because they didn't understand what you were trying to do. You know what I mean? So I think we need to try to do our best effort to get the right information out to people. And any way you do it, it's not going to be, I suppose it's not going to be cheap, but.
I'd be curious to know the age groups, who's voting. Because if you're targeting a younger group and they don't vote, it doesn't mean anything.
I'm pretty sure that this company has it all broken down and knows, because that's what they do as bond elections. That's their whole company is K-12. Well, it's K-12 media. It's school bond elections is their.
If we were to in the time frame that we have, which is limited, and the resources that we have, which is limited, we would have to be guessing at the demographics and things like that. This is going to do that. So if we're serious about this, the amount of work that the steering committee put in of getting this passed, we haven't looked at if there's any other competitors that are equally as, or cost effective, but under the time frame, their resume seems impressive of who they've worked with. A lot of districts in the area, a lot of larger districts, and so I feel like, for me, this is.
If this was a different era, if you were back
Exactly.
25 years ago, I would be
1972.
saying, okay, we're going to put ads in the newspaper, we're going to maybe send out a charger press, and we're going to mail out things, and we're going to have meetings, and that's what else do you do? That's all you do. And maybe try to get on the radio. But in this era,
This is it, yeah.
this is how people consume media these days. So
Unless we have marketing professionals on the board that want to.
If you sent out a couple newspapers, that would do it all. Guaranteed.
think so.
So, I don't have an answer to your statement about if they don't pass it, we don't know whether it's because they didn't understand it. It's a very logical and, it's a good point. My two concerns, I guess, number one is if we spend this money and we get it, then we got it, but we have nothing left. It's buying this, it's not buying this, or, and there are many alternative uses for that money that would seem to be much better, because it's a lot of money. And you say, well, it's not my money. Well, it is our money, because we pay the taxes. So that's my first concern is, if it's successful, whether we pay for this company or not, that money's gone. Oh, sorry, pay for the money, the money's gone, but what do we want? The second thing is, I know it's naive of me to say this, I guess, but if it's the right thing to do, and if it makes sense, and if it's been vetted, it should sell itself. Granted, the misinformation piece is the curveball, but every person I talk to understands the middle school has got problems, and they understand that we don't have a sinking fund anymore that can afford to pay for it. And if you can't fix something, it's not going to get better. So, and it's a small.
Did they understand that before you explained it to them, though?
Yes.
I understand your point about we're spending $30,000 and kind of getting nothing, but we could do other things with that money. But could we be as confident in the efficiency of spending that money with them as if, well, we'll spend the money somewhere else and not really have a game plan? And like you said, we don't have much time.
I guess
So I see what you're saying, but I think the 30,000 much improves our chances of getting the bond passed.
I have a question that none of us can answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If we don't go with them, how much money will we spend doing it ourselves? If it's $500, then that's a big difference. If we're going to spend $15,000 getting radio ads and going to Facebook, but then looking at the delta, right? What do I get from what I'm spending? And do we have any idea if we try to do on our own what it would we hire a company to do just the video? I don't know. That's the hard part.
Well,
We're going to spend something. If we say no, we're still going to spend something.
if you say, okay, so it depends on how you break down. There's two things there. First of all, you're right. When you pay for services, you don't end up with anything in your hand. That's the nature of paying for services. And so if you say, so who's going to produce? If you say don't spend money on things unless you can hold them in your hand, well, we're gonna, we'll still have to spend money on things we produce, flyers that we mail out. Sarah, you can tell me, what were those cards we sent out for registration last year? Do you remember how much that was? Seems like it was
like $5,000.
$4,500, $5,000.
Oh,
When we mailed a card to every all these residents in the community around us,
Yeah, but
that
that's,
card at the beginning of the year, school of choice to Union City, and we sent it to like Brunson, and it was almost $5,000 to send that card out to everybody, when you include the mail. And so I know that, if we have to create the documents ourselves that we hand out and mail and so on, there's a cost for each one of those things that we will have to produce. If we put ads on Facebook, I know when I run a Facebook campaign for, say, a job opening, I don't go for a very high expenditure, but even the cheapest ones are $40-50 for a week. And that's just to hit everybody around here and maybe get between 300 and 400 ads delivered out there, during that time. And that's just for a week. That's not for a whole leading up to an election. So when you talk about, just paying for the delivery of the ads to these companies like Facebook, Instagram, and the production of the paper and those kind of things, you may be $5,000 to $10,000. I don't know. But then you have, who's going to make the video? Who's going to do the graphic arts work? Is it going to be Kelly and me? Because Kelly does our Charger Press. Because I'd already talked with Kelly about doing our Charger Press earlier before the bond election, this year. And, I know she spends a day or two working on that. And I'll get my camera out and try to shoot, but you know, then you're still taking my time, you're taking her time. So even though you're not gonna pay me anymore, you're still paying me. And I'm doing that instead of something else. Usually it's instead of being at home with my family. But, so there is expense involved in time in doing that. And as good as I think I am at some things, it will not be professional quality, I can tell you that much. But I will do the best I can, unless you are going to go out and hire people to do that professionally. And so now your cost is gonna go up, and if you're gonna hire people to do professional videos, I'd rather hire somebody who I know is familiar with what makes a good bond campaign video.
James Bond video. Sorry.
No, I mean, as opposed to going and finding somebody, a local production house who, yeah, they can make a video, but they don't know what goes into one of these ads that actually sells a bond campaign. And whereas this company, that's what they do, is they make ads for bond campaigns. So, yeah.
And back to Amber's point, it's only really approving 4,000, because if it was $28,000, we would have approved it already. So,
Yeah, I think I probably would have.
and I agree with you. So I understand your concerns.
I know a few
Darren's
people who I've
just-
talked to in the past, I'm not gonna name names, but they look at me and say, you spent $33,000 to get people to vote for this when they should have done it anyway, they're gonna be upset. And I understand.
Well, yeah, I understand. I understand
I-
too. I understand it's a lot of money. That's for sure.
Because we gotta pay for the election too, which isn't free, I forgot what that costs, but that's thousands as well.
I think we need to do everything we can to make this successful.
I appreciate your concern.
I mean, it sucks, but what do you?
I really do appreciate your concern.
And I don't want you to
I
ask for all
understand
this
for
work
sure.
either, that's just.
I spoke to them, I
I
did
would
speak
love
to
to push
them.
the easy button, boom, done.
You know, I think
That's a huge button though.
I have shared with them and our builder in the past that our community in general is a kind of a do-it-yourself kind of community. I mean, all the wires in this building, the first set of wires that were ever put up, I put them up myself, you know. People around here tend to try to take care and fix things ourselves if we can. We don't often go out and contract out for other things. When the bleachers needed to be replaced, how many times did we build those bleachers ourselves as a district? Either Dady Beitman and Norm Baker down there trying to do it. I mean, that's just typically how we try to do things here in Union City. But you do have to kind of sometimes decide, you know, maybe this is something better done by a professional and to have it done and do it the right way and only do it once or something. It is a tough call for me too, because I do know those people you're talking about. There will be people who will say, that's a lot of money, but you know, there's a lot of people who don't really understand what the budget of this school is every year too, and how much things cost every year now. And our budget of 11 million, almost $12 million, what is it? You know, there's a lot of things we spend a lot of money on for services that people would say, wow. I mean, just the amount we spend on our website every year, people would say, wow.
I could be a funny man and ask if we're getting electric buses or not, because that would save us a lot of money, but I'm not gonna do that.
I don't know yet, so waiting to find out. Looking doubtful though, based on
Imagine that.
the federal cancellations of pretty much all those programs, so, but that may be one of the programs that is canceled.
Just trying to make light of a heavy situation, that was all.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same.
Aye.
Motion is carried. All right, next we'll move on to a discussion item, special meeting on April 7th. So we need to do this so that we can vote on sending the bond proposal on to its next stop, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So, April 7th,
Monday.
yep. It's the first Monday of April. Would we be able to do 6:30?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll do 6:30,
good.
April 7th. Alrighty. Next is our second public comment time. This is a section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about Union City Community Schools. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do we have any comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to board roundtable. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to share today? Crickets. All right, we'll move on
I
to.
can make something up if you want.
No, we're good. We're good. We'll move on then to adjournment, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you for attending.